If you are over the age of 50, you need to be setting goals. Not just any goals, smart goals. Actually, no matter how old you are, living life with passion and purpose has got to be a kind of ultimate goal for everyone, right? And living life with purpose, having a purpose, that helps to reinforce a resilient mindset. And having a resilient mindset helps us to cope with whatever challenges life throws at us. In terms of resilience, your purpose could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be a sports team that you're part of, it could be defined by your job, it could be your faith, your belief in a higher being, your religion, or it could be a combination of any of the above and probably even more. I was introduced to goals and goal setting at quite an early age in my life. I was 13, became quite heavily involved in sports and fitness training for sports, and goal setting is quite an important element in physical performance improvement. So setting goals has pretty much been second nature to me for most of my life. So whenever I've wanted to achieve something, whether that's fitness related, on my expeditions, or even in business, I've always kind of fallen back and relied on goal setting exercises. In particular today, I'm going to be talking about SMART goals. SMART is an acronym that we can use as a mnemonic device to help us with efficient goal setting. The 5 elements of SMART are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Specific goals should have an outcome that is clear, easily understandable, and easily communicable. You need to be able to paint a picture of exactly what success looks like. And if you want to test that picture, tell somebody and then ask them to repeat it to you. Did it come back as the perfect picture, or was it a bit more kind of Van Gogh? Your goal needs to be measurable and quantifiable. You need a way to measure success and track progress. So for example, let's look at running a marathon. Very simple. The success element of that is, did you run a marathon, if that was your goal? The track progress could be, can you do a 10K, can you do a 15-mile run, and whatever within that. Is it to retire at the age of 55? How much money do you need in the bank? Have you got the plans in place to make that happen? Is it to buy a sailboat? Whatever it is, make sure that you can measure your success and track progress. Your goals have to be achievable. Now, I'm all for setting audacious goals. Back in the days when I was recovering from brain damage, I couldn't walk, I couldn't even talk, but I still set this audacious goal, a dream of becoming a full-time explorer, adventurer, tackling adventures, challenges and expeditions all over the globe in mountain, polar, jungle and desert regions, and making it happen. And I think if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't had that as my audacious goal, I don't think I would have had the purpose and the drive to get me through my recovery, and who knows where I'd be now. However, your goals, no matter how audacious they are, still need to be achievable, whether that's constrained by what's available to you, the resources available to you, the timescales involved, or what's humanly possible. Your goal has to have a high degree of relevance to you and your life journey, because if it doesn't, then what's the point of it being there? What's its purpose? So your personal goals have to have a high degree of relevance, a high degree of importance, because if it's not important to you, you're less likely to attack it with passion and purpose, and then ultimately, unfortunately, you will fail. And your goals have to have a deadline, a cut-off point. They have to be time-bound. That time constraint helps to keep us focused on success, and the time constraint could even form part of the goal. So for example, if your goal is to run a marathon, you could bring it back and say, my goal is to run a marathon within the next 6 months. So when you are setting your goals, make sure that they're SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART goals can give you clarity and focus. SMART goals can provide motivation on many levels, from the clarity of success to an impending timescale. And SMART goals can give us a kind of self-defined structure to help us become just a little uncomfortable in our pursuit of success. This is just probably, almost definitely, a very much oversimplified introduction to SMART goals, and you can dive deeper, much deeper, into this subject and the subjects that surround it. But in the real world, away from academia and away from the world of business, how complicated does this really need to be? In my opinion, and it really is just my opinion, if we can simplify things whilst maintaining their kind of structural integrity, we've got more chance of adopting it and more chance of making success happen. Now, before I move on, if you are setting big, audacious goals, you are more than likely going to need to set a kind of substructure of smaller SMART goals, component parts, if you like, stepping stones, leading you towards your ultimate objective. And remember that the tougher life gets, the more SMART goals you need to set, small goals to lead you on a path to make success happen. As an example of this, I was on an Arctic expedition a few years ago and it all went wrong. We're pulling very heavy bulks. It was an Arctic winter expedition, so it was cold, it was dark, it was uncomfortable. I slipped whilst pulling this heavy bulk over a pressure ridge in the ice and I felt a tear in my abs. And cutting a long story short, what I'd done is rip the cartilage from my chest all the way to my belly button. My skin was still intact, but there's things that should have been inside my body were suddenly starting to pull out and poke out. I could have called in an air rescue, but to do so in those conditions would have been putting somebody else's life in danger, and I chose to be there, so that was taken off the menu. I laid on the floor, manipulated my insides back in through the hole, I made a corset out of duct tape, and then walked very slowly and painfully back to Greenland where I could be extracted safely. Now, originally, the big objective of North Pole was no longer there. The goals of covering between 9 and 15, sometimes even 20 kilometers a day, that had gone. My goals became the next 500 steps, 200 steps, 50 steps. At points where it was really difficult, my goal was the next 2 steps. And once I'd done that 2-step goal, then I would up it to 10 steps, 50 steps, and so on, just to keep the momentum going. And that's how success happened. Actually, I might make a whole video on that subject at a later date. If I do, when I do, I'll drop a link in the description below. I think all of us, without exception, have at some point in our lives undertaken some kind of goal setting exercise, but I'd be interested to find out if you still take the time or make the time to go through a kind of structured goal setting exercise to keep life moving and to make success happen. And now it's time for my book of the week slot. My book of the week this week, I think, folds quite nicely into this conversation about goal setting. The book is Mind Maps for Business by Tony Bazan with Chris Griffiths. But don't get hung up on the for business element of the book title, because the content of the book is applicable to pretty much anything and everything that we do in life. I first came across the concept and techniques of mind mapping when I was on a leadership course in my early 20s, and since then I could be what you might term a prolific mind mapper. There are many applications for mind mapping. I often use mind mapping when I want to explore or get clarity on anything from a basic idea to a complex situation, or when I want to take the basis of an idea and expand on it to develop goals and action plans to take something from concept to actualization. To give you a few examples, my books were largely created using mind mapping techniques to explore ideas, to define ideas, and even to communicate ideas to my publishers. Mind mapping techniques have featured in most of my adventures, expeditions, and challenges. What started as a crazy idea for an adventure or an expedition, and bring it to life, make it happen. Similarly, I've used mind maps within the education projects that I've started or brought to life or supported or worked within. There are different ways of mind mapping, and I prefer the kind of old-fashioned way, if you like, of using paper and coloured pens. It kind of suits my messy creative mind, but software is available, so if you're more comfortable sitting in front of a screen, you can do that too. In short, this book gives you a thorough understanding of mind mapping and how to use mind mapping techniques to improve your efficiency, and importantly, how to do it. As always, I'll drop any relevant links below. I've rattled on about the theory of goal setting, but one thing that I haven't touched on is that we still need to work hard to make success happen, because a goal without action is just a dream. Be good, be brilliant, be awesome, live life with purpose. See ya.